Hello and welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed part one of our discussion on A Dance of the Forests. In part one, we looked at the background and context of the play. Now, in part two, we will move forward with a summary of the major events and then explore the central themes, such as corruption, history, responsibility, and self discovery. Through this, we will see how Wole Soyinka uses post-colonial drama to reflect on Nigeria's independence and the challenges of building a just society. The summary of the play: A Dance of the Forest. The play opens during the gathering of the tribes, a festival meant to celebrate unity and honor the past. The living expects two illustrious ancestors to join them in their celebration. Instead, the god Aroni, with permission from the forest head, brings forth two restless spirits, the dead man and the dead woman. They are revealed to be a captain and his wife from the army of Emperor Mata Karibu. Their appearance is significant because in a previous life they were wronged and abused by four mortals who are present in the festival, namely Rola, once a queen and now a prostitute, known as Madame Tortoise. Number 2 is Demok, once a court poet and now a carver. Third is Adnibi, once the court historian and now a council orator. And lastly, Egberiko, the soothsayer who holds the same role in both lives. These four mortals are chosen to face the consequences of their actions done by them in the past. At first, the living reject the dead man and the dead woman, refusing to hear the case or acknowledge their return. The spirits are shunned and Aroni protects them under his guidance. The forest head, disguised as Ogbaniji, gathers the mortals and prepares them for the ceremonies that will unfold. These ceremonies are intended to force the mortals to confront their secrets, beginning with the retelling of their past crimes. Demok admits to killing his apprentice, Ormol, by pulling him from the top of the araba tree they were carving together. This confession brings into focus the guilt and tensions that run through the play. This action then shifts to the ancient past, 8 centuries earlier, in the court of Emperor Mata Karibu. Here, the four mortals reappear in their former roles. Rola is Madame Tortoise, the queen who amuses herself by seducing men and then forcing them into dangerous tasks. In one instance, she sends a pupil of the poet to fetch her canary from a steep roof, leading to the young man's injury. Demok reappears as the poet and Adnibi as the historian, each reliving their former misdeeds. The dead man is shown as a warrior, brought before the emperor on charges of treason. Although once loyal to Mata Karibu, he now refuses to lead his men into another pointless war. He had fought against a fellow chief and abducted his queen for Mata Karibu. But when pressed to fight again, he resists. The court debates his refusal. The historian insists that bloodshed is normal and pacifism is weak, while the soothsayer alone warns Mata Karibu for the destruction that will come if the war continues. His warning is ignored. The story then returns to the present. The spirits of the forest prepare the dance of the welcome for the dead man and the dead woman. The dead woman, who is pregnant, carries within her the half-child, a figure who has never been fully born. The forest head instructs Aruni to relieve her of this burden, so the unborn child's voice, silenced for generations, may finally be heard. For a moment, the child speaks, but the forest spirits also predict a future filled with more sufferings. Their words cast doubt over whether renewal is possible. At this point, the spirit, Ishoro, intervenes. He demands vengeance for the death of Ormol, Demok's apprentice, whose fall from Araba tree haunts Demok's conscience. Ishoro hurls accusations while Ogun, the god of iron, war and cowers, defends Dimok. This conflict between Ishoro and Ogun intensifies the tensions of the ceremonies. The mortals continue through the rituals. In the dance of the half-tired, Dimok tries to save the unborn child from its fate of eternal stillborn. Though he cannot change the child's destiny, his effort marks a turning point in his role in the ceremony. In the final act, the dance of the unwilling sacrifice, Dimok is forced by Ishoro to climb the araba tree once again, with a basket over his head, symbolizing the heavy weight of his guilt. He ascends. Ishoro sets fire to the tree and Dimok falls. Instead of being destroyed, he is caught in the arms of Ogun, the patron of his craft, who saves him from the death. The play closes with the image of Dimok's totem standing tall as the townspeople dance around it. The dead man and the dead woman, having fulfilled their role in confronting the living with their past, fade away. The ceremonies come to an end, leaving the characters changed by the encounters they have endured. Let's move the themes of the Dance of Forest. Number 1 is atonement. Atonement is a major theme of the play. The dead man and dead woman are brought back to the land of the living so that the four mortals who mistreated them in the past will recognize their former sins and atone. While the mortals spend a great deal of the play unaware of this, they eventually realize that the purpose of the dead man and dead woman's visitation is to teach them a lesson, and by the end, they go through a kind of conversion, understanding that they have sinned. A quote from the play, "It is enough that they discover their own regeneration," by Aroni. Number 2, the relationship between past and present. While the spirit characters may be understood to represent specific people who are deceased, each of them also stands for larger groups of which they had been members, especially the Yoruba tribal ethnic group. By extension, they represent traditional, authentic African values in contrast with modern imposed British ones. The potent life forces the dead man and dead woman are necessary for the current and future vitality of African people. The continued importance of the deity spirits, such as the forest father, is communicated through intermediaries such as Aruni and Egboriko. Third is corrupted power. Corrupted power is another major theme in the play, particularly as it is represented in the characters of Mata Karibu and Madame Tortoise. As we are taken back to the palace of the king, we see that Madame Tortoise exploits her beauty and her power over men in order to stir up discord. Mata Karibu is also corrupted by his immense power, as demonstrated by the fact that he is demanding that his soldiers fight against their better judgment, and the fact that he mercilessly punishes them. Free thinking. Bolsoenka tells a story that reveals to the reader that all power is corruptible, and that just because people are given authority does not mean they are good or ethical people. Number 4 is trauma. The play depicts the ways that people carry around trauma and wounds from the past, that everyone has some sensitive part of their biography that haunts and hurts them. The forest head knows this and attempts to bring those characters who have been hurt in their past to also move on. Number 5 theme is nature. The play takes place in a forest, and throughout, various elements of the natural world come to life to take part in the reckoning that is taking place with the mortals. The forest head is the spirit who presides over the forest, and during the welcoming of the dead man and the dead woman, various spirits of different natural elements are called upon to speak their piece. These include spirit of the rivers, spirit of the palms, spirits of the volcanoes, and others. All of these elements of nature are personified through verse, showing us the connection between the human and the natural world. A quote is, "Rivers are never silent. They carry the voices of those before us." Number 6 is ritual and tradition. Another major theme, as well as a formal element of the play, is ritual and tradition. Throughout, we see the characters going through traditional notions in order to understand more about their circumstances. These rituals include the ceremony for the self-discovery of the mortals, in which the mortals must relive their crimes. The dead man and dead woman must be questioned, and the mortals must reveal their secret wrongs. Another ritual that gets performed is a dance of welcome, in which the spirits of the forest perform and deliver monologues. Then, the dance of the half-child determines with whom the unborn child will go. Often, rituals, dances, and formal representations stand in for literal events. A quote is, "The dance is the only truth men can perform without words." Next theme is birth. One of the unresolved features of the dead woman is the fact that she was killed while pregnant with a child. She returns to the world of the living, still with a pregnant belly, and during the welcome ritual, the fetus appears as a half-child who is caught between being influenced by the spirit world and remaining with his mother. The half-child is a tragic figure, as he was never given the relief of life, and when he is given a chance to speak, he says, "I who yet await a mother, feel this dread. Feel this dread, I who flee from womb, to branded womb cried now. I will be born dead, I will be born dead." Next theme is destiny and free will. The play questions whether humans are bound by destiny or have the power to change their futures. While spirits and gods foresee disasters, mortals like Demok struggle to break the cycle of repetition by taking personal responsibility. His attempt to rescue the half-child is symbolic of human agency. Next theme is justice and injustice. The play raises the question of true justice. The dead man and dead woman return seeking redress, but instead of punishment, what is offered is a recognition of guilt and the possibility of redemption. This emphasizes the Yoruba idea of restorative rather than retributive justice. Let them hear the cry of the unborn, that is judgment enough. Next theme is guilt and redemption. The mortals carry guilt from their past wrongdoings. Demok's guilt, in particular, is dramatized when he is forced to climb the araba tree with a burden on his head, symbolizing his moral blindness. His eventual fall in Ogun's arm signals the possibility of redemption. The quote, "Blindness is the burden of guilt. Only through fire may sight return." Through all these themes, we see that the past and the present, they are intermingling with each other. In this, that is all for today. And in the next lecture, we will talk about the analysis and the major discussions of the major characters. That is it for today. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.